Good morning, ladies. I am Karen Ray. I'm here with Laurie Hardie and Jackie Cote, and this is something new for us. This is a brave conversation, and this is in line with our Celebrating 1 Million Women Being Brave movement. And also coming up now is our new publication where we're going to be helping you walk through some brave situations. Navigating change is our current theme, and that is one of the things we're going to talk about today. I really wanted to have some real women with real stories that have walked through some of these things that can help us, just give us some hope and inspiration, if you will. Maybe we'll have a few laughs, maybe we'll have some tears. You never know. But our conversation today is going to be around being seen and heard in the world starts with you. And Jackie brought this up, and I literally had to raise my paddle and go, I relate. I think everybody should have a paddle. But the reason that I relate so much, and then I'll introduce Laurie and Jackie a little bit here too, is this is my story. This is going from invisible to being visible, because my walking through challenges, divorce, empty nester, all these things. The counselor at that time said, Karen, he goes, how do you feel in your life? And he had this big white piece of paper on his lap, and he goes, there's your piece of paper, write a word how you feel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to write? And I ended up writing the word invisible. We raised our papers at the exact same time. He had that on his paper too. And he goes, Karen, it doesn't have anything to do with anyone else. How are you going to show up in your own life? And that's the question we're asking today. So I just want to welcome Laurie and Jackie. So Jackie, why don't you start out? Just say hello and introduce yourself, and then we'll go over to Laurie.
Hi, Coach Jackie here. Thank you, Karen, for doing this. Just because this has been a conversation that's been rolling in all of my groups and all of the things that I do. And I'm a freedom mentor, and I'm just super crazy passionate about helping women do exactly this: awaken, empower, and own who they are unapologetically in the world, so they can really create the life they desire. And I part of mine didn't realize was being a nomad, right? And so I that's not, you don't have to do that to have a freedom life. But when I started this whole coaching thing, I thought about freedom from a external source, right? Of like time freedom, money freedom, location freedom. And that was kind of the conversation, and that's what attracted people. And then it just hit me like a couple of years ago where I was like, no, like freedom is like within. Like freedom is like knowing who you are, owning who you are, truly being seen and heard of who you are, and not as and you guys know, like, all the talk out there is really about the being seen and heard on social, and be a speaker and get on the podcast. And I love all of those things, but we still won't be truly seen and heard on all of those platforms, in all those places, and attract the people we desire if we don't see ourselves for the true being of who we are. So thank you for bringing this conversation together, and I'm so excited to have Laurie here too.
Yeah. Oh, so much good stuff. And we'll come back to some of those points there about that freedom. Laurie, hello. Good to see you. Introduce yourself a little bit too to the ladies.
Thank you. I'm also a coach, Coach Laurie. And same with Jackie and you, Karen. I would have done the same thing. I would have put invisible. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm a mom. And then I thought maybe it's because I come from this generation where we were not to be, seen and not heard. And I remember a podcast, I just did an interview, and the woman said this was so crazy. In one of her groups, maybe it was you, Jackie, I don't know. But the woman said, if you want to be seen, quit hiding. And it seems so basic, but what I did is I got into radio. Guess what? Nobody sees you. I could be heard and not seen.
Yeah.
And I've just made that connection. And I do feel it's so important for us to have a voice and to tell our story. But also, until we get in touch with who we are and what we're about and really embrace that, then those things don't matter, because we'll keep what we resist persists. So we'll keep resisting it. And so I am no longer hiding. I actually swim in the morning. Okay, I was raised with get up, get your makeup on, look great, or no one will love you. Karen's like, yep, that's our generation. So now I swim in the morning. So I am at the pool in my suit with my cap on and my glasses, and I wear a nose plug, and people are walking by. Hey, how are you doing? I missed you last week. I'm like, what is happening? People see me and they're not freaking out because I look like I have a hat on, a cap, swim cap. And so it's really changing my perspective of what I think people see and what people see. And it's similar whenever I talk about podcasting, people say, I hate my voice. And I always say, get over it. Everyone hates their voice. But what I say now is, everyone who loves you loves your voice.
Oh, yeah. And that we had, as we're talking about this topic about really being starting within us. So as you are thinking back on your story of how you have become to where you're at today, Jackie, what is that? Was there like an aha moment for you? I mean, what was your story when you were kind of discovering yourself? And what was that pivot point where you had to go, you know what, I got to show up for me, and what is that going to look like? And, what did it feel like?
Mine was, it's so interesting because I was always this like happy-go-lucky, happy Jackie. I put quotes around that, like the happy Jackie, I got it girl. And on the exterior, people would be like, oh, she's killing it. She's having a great life, da 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 da. But inside, I like avoided myself like the plague. Like I did not want to be with myself. And so fast forward into when I first met the coaching world, which I had no idea about, right? I thought football coach, soccer coach. I didn't realize I could do everything I was really good at in my own business. So I dove, after I got fired, I dove right into it. Not to go through that whole story, but I dove right into the coaching world and tried to create my own business. But here's what I didn't realize at the time was that my relationship was falling apart. My health was horrible at the time. I was unhappy. This was with the job before I got fired. I didn't realize all these things had been accumulating because I was like, no, I got it. I can, like, it's just a phase. I'm like, I'll be good. No worries. And it was just crumbling in me and my now husband, but at the time boyfriend, were living in separate rooms. And here's where like the being seen and heard hit me in the face, that I had to see myself first. I had to hear myself first. I had to love myself first, or I was never going to have the relationship of my desire, the job or business of my desire, or the things, because I was sitting there going, I was trying to fix my, you do this thing, like you can do this and you can be better. And like the fingers pointing. Well, then there's these 3 fingers back at me that I ignored for decades. And then, and because I got into the coaching world and I was learning about it, I was like, oh, wait a second. Like I have to love me. Like I've got to do me. Like what? And I think that was what the talk was around. So I started doing the work, and I thought I was building a business. And I ended up crying for 9 months on my bed with my first one-on-one coach, because I was like healing and releasing and like realizing how much I just didn't like myself. And of course, I'm not going to have a loving relationship and a forever, like if I didn't love myself. And so here's the exercise that I think I've told you this, Karen, but the exercise that opened my eyes was I wrote out, I was doubting our relationship and we were sleeping in separate rooms and all this other stuff. I wrote this list that I wanted in a companionship. And as I was writing it out, I didn't put his face or name to it. I realized I want all these things with another human, but I don't do it for myself. I want someone to love me unconditionally and adore me for who I am. I don't love myself. I don't adore myself. Right? I want to be like spontaneous and just go on trips, but I say no to myself all the time. I don't take time off. I have it with my job, but I don't take the time off. I want to be like healthy in my body, and I want that person to also the same. I wasn't there. So I literally took the list and was like, here. And I told my boyfriend / husband now at the time, and I said, listen, I said, here's where I read them. I said, I'm going to read you something. I don't want you to try to fix it. I read everything to him. I said, I got to do me, you do you. And if we're still standing in the end, great. And as I helped myself and healed myself and started to love myself and did the work and still working on it, right? Still working on it. We're forever, growth and evolution over a lifetime. And he started changing without me telling him to. He started shifting without me going, you can do it, and so that was my aha moment. And that was 6 years ago.
Yeah. And as you say that, I feel this weight. As you were talking, I could feel the tension and like, oh my gosh, I had to discover who I am. Yeah. And so where's my little slide? I relate. Okay, girls, you can I relate to anything that touches you, because even though you may have a different circumstances, you may be experiencing the same things. And one of those questions I ask myself, and we're going to get to Laurie here in just a second too, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to discover who I was. I had been in this place for so long, mom, wife, blah, in my little mom box, little wife box. I wasn't sure I was going to like who I saw.
Scary.
But I knew I was going to have to peel back the layers, and I knew there was maybe some ugly stuff there.
It wasn't fun. I'm not going to tell you it was fun. It was, but it's so worth it. So
and I thought, oh my gosh. And, so then you go in this growth pattern. So anyway, so Laurie, tell us a little bit about your story. Where was there that aha moments like, and what were the feelings that went along with it when you're like, oh, I got to start inside here? And what was that like?
Yeah, so similar to Jackie, a little bit different. But Karen, I remember when I interviewed you on my podcast, it was the first time that I had met you. And you had started this, wanting to, touch 1 million women. And I remember here I had been, doing what I was doing and been pretty happy. And I thought, wow, you went from that situation to this powerful woman. You stood up, you did it. And that was so empowering to me because even though I had already started, it was kind of reminding me, yes, we can. We don't have to stay stuck. So what happened for me is I was married for 14 years and I became a life coach. And in the life coaching, they presented this ridiculous idea I'd never heard of. And in my world, it was self-centered, narcissistic. They talked about self-care. And I was like, I guess I'm not going to be a good coach because that's ridiculous. There was no capacity for that. I was so codependent. I'd been raised, I'd been an abused child. And so I was, I got married and I just took care of my husband, my family. And so I decided, since I paid money for this course, it was at that time, it was like live in person. There was no Zoom. And it was over like a 9-month period. So I thought, okay, before I have to go back for the next class, I'm going to try it. And they had us write something. I honestly can't remember, but they had us write it and put it where we would see it every day. And so this is ridiculous, but I'll give it a try. I'll be willing. And what happened for me when I started to value myself and have a few boundaries around my life, my marriage fell apart because we were living a lie. And he was gay. He knew it when he got married. It was back in the day when, that would not have been accepted. I'm not making excuses because, but he could not live with himself anymore because he knew he was living a lie. And the more I was loving myself and not being codependent, then it fell apart. And so where Jackie's world came together, mine fell apart, but it was what needed to happen. And so I had become this coach, and we had no Zoom or internet. So we had these big headphones so we could do phone calls with people in other states. And I was like, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to make money. Well, I kept having excuses. Well, then when he was gone and I was on my own, I realized that even though there were things I was blaming him for, I couldn't do because of him. Well, guess what? He's not here anymore. And I'm still not doing them. So look in the mirror. We hear about mirror work. Look in the mirror. And I had to learn to value myself. And it wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't a month thing. It is an ongoing process and layers and layers. Like I get to one place and I'm like, this is good. Then something comes up. I'm like, wait, I already did that. And then I realized, oh, this is just another layer of loving myself and accepting myself. And I've been single for 20 years. So I've learned to be alone, and I've learned to love it. And I've learned to really value myself. And even now, as I'm going through a death in the family, I find myself putting myself last and going, okay, I want to do that when it's helpful. But it's easy to fall into a pattern of I'll do everything, I'll carry the burden. And then I have to go, no, nobody's asking me to. Why am I trying to carry everyone's burden when they're like, I got my backpack, leave me alone. So it's a process. I hope that I'm getting there.
Yeah, it is a process. And so, here's the thing. So we've identified the story. It's like, okay, here's the feelings. I know I need to look within. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. So and then you're learning to, you hear a lot of learning to care for yourself and love yourself, but we are so focused outward. So many women are. I didn't even know what that meant.
Mhm.
So when my counselor told me, he goes, Karen doesn't have anything, you got to show up in your own life. And I'm like, well, what does that look like? I had no concept of that. And then I'm like, well, and then how? How do you show up? So what does that mean, being seen by yourself and showing up that way? So Jackie, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, it's funny you say that because most women who are, dedicated, hardworking, and giving their all, like, we aren't part of that all at all. And so when I was challenged in the beginning with my mentor to be more and do less, I think I've probably told you the story, Karen, but like, I was like, what does that mean? I don't understand.
Yeah.
She's like, and then I was doing less of the like networking and trying to build my business because here's funny. I was doing all the work and I was working like this whole schedule, like the restaurant, and I wasn't making any money. And I was like, what the heck's going on? She's like, you need to embrace the being more, right? And so the being, I literally had to write a list. I took one of those like pieces of paper and was like, okay, can you help me out with what it means to be?
Yeah.
And so I like wrote on the list. I was like, she's like, walk your dogs, go to the lake, because I lived by a lake at the time and I love water and I love being in water. She's like, call a friend, take a bath, take a shower if you prefer, like read a book, listen to a podcast, pick some flowers. Like, I literally had to write a list and I put it on my fridge. So when I was like, I don't have a client scheduled right now, I don't have a call, a 50 million discovery calls, what do I do?
Okay, so I'm going to, mind if I interrupt just a quick sec?
Totally.
Because, so I hear you and about that be, but then you have to be with your thoughts.
Yeah. So
and then you start swirling. So how do you deal with all that and then the emotion and all that stuff that's going on when you actually have to be?
You open the door.
Yeah. No, totally. So I wore an anchor. Okay. I had a bracelet that I ordered from like, I don't know, it was from Amazon. It was like an $8 chakra bracelet way before I understood what chakras were. It just was a pretty rainbow bracelet for some reason. I liked it. I had multiple colors. And that I had to wear that. Someone taught me how to like anchor into what it is that you're trying to change, shift, think differently. So when I would go to try to replace doing into those spots instead of being, I would anchor into like, okay, what's the purpose of this? Like, what, and it would break the state, the everyday state of me going and feeling like scarcity, and I got to do this, and I got to, and then I'd go be. Now, to your point, I had to be with my thoughts when I was alone and that stuff. And so that's scary. But with each time I'd learn how to like have the conversations with the thoughts. It's like, okay, you're having this thought. Why are you having this thought? But like, you're safe. I had to use the words "you're safe" all the time. You're safe. It's okay. Because I didn't feel safe being in those thoughts, because I also went through like a 30-year history of bulimia and like different things that like I hid behind the scenes for so many things because I didn't want to be with me and I didn't know how to regulate emotions and all these things. That's a whole nother podcast or whole nother video. But it was allowing myself. So maybe it was meditation, right? And instead of fighting myself in meditation, being like, you're not doing it right, like how can you not stay focused, just letting things float through, and just kept repeating to myself, okay, it's safe to have these thoughts, like these are, this is okay. And then as I allowed them to, let's say, be present and float by, they got quieter. But it was because for decades I never allowed them. Like I stuff them down, or I'd be like, no, or whatever, fight them. And they come back with a vengeance. If you fight those things, guys, they come back with a vengeance. And so I learned how to accept them, understand them, ask questions, be curious. Oh my gosh, that is like the number one value of my business, is if I can help more women be curious on the intention of what it is and how it served you at one point. I learned that these thoughts served me. They protected me. They kept me loved. They kept me belonging for some reason. Even if they don't serve me anymore, they served a purpose. And then they felt acknowledged. And then they released. So then I was able to then go, but I choose this instead. Like the future version of me, the version of me that's building this business and not going back to a job ever and healing herself, she gets to choose differently. And again, to Laurie's point and your point, it's like, it's a process, it's a journey. And like, and now there's my brain chatter is so quiet. There's so like, it's so like, like freer. It's very, very limited in comparison to where it was. It was a rock show. It was a rock star show. Like in my brain, it was constant like noise. Cause I mean, come on now, I worked in the restaurant business. So this is what my head did all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people, volume, this, that, things going on. Cause it hit, I didn't have to hear it.
Yeah.
And then when I got quiet, I had to hear it. So it was a journey of like understanding it and processing it and allowing it, loving it, and moving to the next thing.
Yeah. So Laurie, your thoughts on this? And so too, what was there like, oh my gosh, I have to deal with this feeling, and realizing that, oh, I really just don't want to do this.
Well, one thing,
moments like
yeah.
that.
One thing I did with my clients is I would always say, make a list of 20 things you love. And it was always, if they were moms, it was always hard because we forget what we love. And I realized one time I'd never made that list. I'd never made the list. And so I love the water. I love the beach. So I had to do what I was coaching. And so I would do the same thing. If I had time in between picking up the kids or whatever, I'd run down to the beach. I lived on an island. I would, light a candle. I hated baths. And so when you always hear Cal gonna take me away, and they always say, take a bath. And I'm like, if that's self-care, I'm in big trouble. I'm in big trouble because baths were not.
It's like chicken soup to me. I don't understand it. Sitting in a bowl of chicken soup. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but man, I hate baths too.
But one thing I learned as I got there was a beauty salon where I lived called Just Be. And I was so mad because I wanted to name my coaching business that. But we were in the same community. I couldn't do that. And it was before internet. But as I learned to be with myself, what would happen is all those thoughts come up. And then I learned to ask myself a question. Is it true? And so as I would start to stress out, like, you're just, you didn't try hard enough, or all those crazy, crazy things. And I'd say, is it true? And I'd sit for a minute and be like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then I'd think, where would I be without that thought? If I wasn't sitting here thinking I was a horrible person, I'd probably be doing something along coaching or helping other people or whatever. And so I learned to ask myself hard questions. And I love Caroline Leaf. And she talks about how our mind can change our brain. Because our brain, if we trip all the time and say, oh, I'm always tripping, then it goes, you like to trip, I'm going to trip. And so I learned, your brain wants to look for what it thinks you like. So your mind has to tell it what you like. So I learned, I started learning the self-talk. And so like when I would go, oh, you're so stupid, I'd go, wait, is it true? No. I locked my keys in the car. Everybody does it once in a while. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. Like all those conversations, until I started to get to the point where then I wasn't even saying you're stupid anymore. I was like, I locked my keys in the car, And so it is a process. And I work really hard at it all the time. I take a quiet time in the morning to reflect and think about it and keep myself centered, because it's so easy to go to that negative place. It's so easy to go to why women, why I'm a bad person. I'm a terrible person. I'm not enough. And I have a couple of podcasts, but one is called Enough. You're enough. You have enough. You do enough. So.
Yeah.
That's my favorite question, by the way. Is it true?
Is it true?
Oh, yeah. Or go to the facts.
Yeah.
That's one that I have to go to now is, what are the facts?
Mm-hmm.
Because truth can mean a lot of different things, I've learned. It's like the facts. But I see, so I cannot see the comments coming through, Jackie. It looks like you can see some things coming through.
I've got my Facebook on the side here on my phone, so I've just been commenting and stuff. Heather's on. Heather and my friend Ann are on. Heather Ross is on.
Hi, ladies. We're just going to be having these brave conversations. I'm just going to kind of give the ladies, in case they popped in a little late. Our topic today, our brave topic, is being seen and heard in the world starts within you. And so what are those things? I would love, if you relate to this conversation at all, of maybe not showing up for yourself, showing up for everybody else, putting yourself second, and maybe you are in that place of discovery of walking this walk, which is not easy. I mean, how many tears did you have to shed during your journey? I mean, Jackie, you said 9 months.
I remember looking at my coach going, okay, listen, I'm not making money and all I'm doing is crying. Like, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for you to help me build the business that you have. And that's like strategy mind, right? Like, I'm like, I was looking for the strategy and the how to do. And I remember her giggling when I hired her. She was like, okay. Like, as coaches, we go, you think you need that, but we really know you need this, and we'll get you there. But we don't say that out loud because we know, because you don't know yet. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And as you go through the journey, you have these like boom discoveries, and you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed that. I didn't know that was all. Oh, I didn't know, because we say it all the time. I know every one of us has said this. We cannot read the label on our own jar. We are stuck in a jar, and we just can't see the ingredients. We can't see the things, and a mentor, friend, coach, whatever can. So with the right people in your life, they can mirror back what it is that you cannot see. And that's why this is a journey. And that's why we need communities like yours.
Yes, absolutely. And I had a thought there, but now it left.
I'm sorry.
So one of the things too, I think that I've noticed a lot lately. So we have these different areas, our thoughts, some people are doer people, some people are thinker people, and some people just really feel deeply, and so I would love to hear what everybody thinks they are. Do you sit and just really think about things? And so then that takes up a lot of the process. Are you a doer? I'm a doer person. When I don't want to deal with something, I go be busy, because then I don't have to think about it and I don't have to feel it. Really? So what are all of you?
I'll say, I want to guess Laurie's, but I'll say now, like, I feel like I was the doer and now I'm more the contemplator. Like, I geek out over contemplating over everything, and and I by the way, I use that all the time, Karen, because Karen one day said, you geek out over yourself, don't you? And I was like, yes, I do. Every moment of life, good, bad, ugly, I geek out over it all. And that is, so I would say I'm a doer, but I'm very much more on the, let's call it the feminine versus the masculine. I have very much the contemplator, the process, like the thinker of things, but I'll take action like that. Like, I will do and take action like that, but it's got to be a hell yes. It's like my body's got to say yes, or if it says no, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. So I do less of the doing, because I'm not so much, I contemplate more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How about you, Laurie? Where's your go-to place?
I'm curious what Jackie thinks mine is.
I think you're similar to me. Like, I think you're similar to me, where like you were probably at one point like I gotta do and like, get shit done, that kind of thing. Right.
Well, and what do they say about women and single moms? We get stuff with an IT done. Yeah. But honestly, it's so much easier to do and to be busy. And I learned this incredible lesson. I ran a day center for homeless women, and we would have volunteers come in, and they always wanted to do, but what we needed them to be. And so I'll never forget this one day, this lady came in and she goes, what do you want me to do? And I go, that woman there on the couch, her name is whatever, why don't you just visit with her while I get some coffee ready? And so she visited with her. The lady finally fell asleep, and the woman just sat there, but she wouldn't move because the lady was leaning on her. And so lunch came, and she's like, what do I do? I go, well, why don't you grab her some lunch and just bring it to her? So she did. And when the day was over, she came up and she goes, this isn't for me. I didn't get to do anything. And I go, really? That's how you feel? She goes, yeah, I didn't do anything. I go, that woman hasn't slept in a week. You made her feel safe by just being.
Oh, to feel safe. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's just pause for a moment. What if we felt safe, ladies? What if we had a place where we could just be, where we feel safe? And when that starts within you, that is where we need to create, or for myself anyway, I can't speak for anybody else, but for myself, because safe is really important to me. And I need to create a safe space for me to be, where I feel safe within. That is one of my key things, so I can then allow myself to feel the feelings and think the thoughts, and then take action after that, instead of kind of the reverse order. But I love what some of the ladies, Laurie Thiebert says, previously a doer, now focused on being an intentional doing. And Heather says she's in the midst of her journey. So, as we are, we're going to kind of start wrapping up here, that where it's being heard and seen starts within you. As you're sitting here thinking about it, what's the thought that comes to you, that if you could just share one thing with the ladies about that as we close out? What's one maybe thing that's just really touched you, or that you'd like to share? And I'm going to start. For me, one of my revelations lately is, you talk about a lot about loving yourself and accepting yourself. And I noticed a word that a lot of women were using that really touched me, and it's honored. What if we honored who we are? The good, the bad, the ugly. And it gives us gives me a space to grow, to be curious, to learn, and but to honor where I'm at and what is and where I'm going.
Love that.
How about you?
I love that. And I think honor is a really great word. I'm just kind of resonating with that, but also accepting. I love what Lady Gaga says, radical acceptance is that, especially in my age group, as I'm getting older and people are retiring, some people have things, some people have legacy, and realizing whatever we have is not it. The legacy is the stories and the things that we have and that we share, and realizing that no matter where we are in the process, you was single, married, but I have a lot of friends that have been married forever. I've been single forever, and just really just letting that be and not having any judgment around it. And again, is that true? I like what you said. It's not necessarily true. What are the facts? The facts are that was my choice. I'm not, I'm single. I chose that because I wanted to protect my children. And then as I got older, I was busy and I had a life. And so it's really just embracing and accepting that where I am is really where I want to be today. And if tomorrow I want to be somewhere else, guess what? It is never too late.
Yay, I love it. Love it. The great words. Okay. Jackie.
Okay, so we've got honoring, we've got accepting,
and embracing.
And for me, it's embracing is a fabulous, yes, embracing. It's also trusting, like trusting in self, trusting in God, because, universe, whatever yours is, and we are one with that. So when we don't trust ourselves, we're not trusting our higher power. When we don't trust our higher power, we're not trusting self. It's one. And I have to keep going back to that. Like when, the money in the bank account looks low, like trust, trust. And a lot of surrendering to trust. So it goes right along with it. But, and that's kind of like, the journey of, I finally clicked. I'm writing this book. I've been trying to write it for 18 months, but it clicked, that it's the woman who releases the control from fear and survival and moves into trust and surrender and love can really thrive then. And so trust has been a big one for, every year I feel like I'm leaning into more and more trust.
Yeah. So I'm just going to repeat some of the words that we just said. So honor, how important your story is. Ladies, your story has so much power, and that's why we invite any woman to come here and write her story. You can go to the faithlifestyles.app. There's 16 questions. It's interview style. We'll take you right through your story. There's opportunities to come and be interviewed. There's some of the other words, though, were embrace. You have a choice. Ladies, you have a choice. And I cannot stress that enough. That's one of my key pillars in my life. Trust, surrender, and I'm going to add one more word to that. Love. Give yourself a hug. Love you today. Go like this, and then switch it and go like that, and feel how different that is when you do it the other way. It's powerful. Hug yourself every day.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, so Laurie and Jackie, just take a real quick second. If people, you're both coaches, you can both help ladies walk through these areas of helping a woman start to look within, to be curious about that. So just real quickly, as we close out here, to say how women can connect with you.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, cool. I so Facebook's my like digital diary. I've always talked about how like that's where everything pours out of me, my whole journey, everything. And if something intrigued you here and you want to just kind of go deeper, I've got links to a call that we can get on, a 30-minute call, and kind of walk through it and see what it is. I'm on all the platforms, but and we'll drop a link in, the chats of these things to find us and stuff like that. But honestly, like just hanging out on my Facebook wall, like you will end up being inspired each day. Yeah. And I share it all. I don't share all the pretty stuff. I share the ugly stuff. I share the crying faces, the note. I was of the generation that was like, we don't need makeup anymore. So I'm in the 50s. So like my mom was always impeccable in like the perfect face. Right? Yep. Perfect hair. I was like, yeah, not so much. I also grew up with boys, so, and a father, and really no female influence. So, yeah, so that's my role.
I love it. I love it. And then you do that digital diary, you let people in, and it's so relatable. I mean, it really is, because we all go through things and it's like, you're putting it out there. It's like, yeah, it makes you feel that you're not alone. And that's why it is so important too. We're going to add that to one of our things, that you're not alone. And Laurie, how can ladies connect with you?
So Facebook also, but www, always got to have the 3 W's, and I hate saying them, coachlaurie.com. And it's funny because I teach podcasting, and I teach, because I worked in radio for so long, I teach a quick 7-day, get your podcast going and launch, because you've already got content. But I had a friend that said she worked in radio, and she goes, but I thought you were a life coach. And I go, oh, believe me, when people start telling their story, they need a coach. They need a coach.
Oh my gosh. Ladies, we're going to have some more brave conversations. If you have a topic that you would like to bring up, that we, walking through our brave stories, whether it's around your story, showing up, all the feelings that we have to walk through. And our current theme is navigating change, so that, we go through so many changes. And I'm really excited to be bringing to you, because we don't want to just take you through your story. We want to provide some support and to uplift you, so you're not alone. And we're putting together our first publication of celebrating being everyday brave. And that's going to have things from coaches right in their practical tips. Like, Jackie said, there's this, these lists that you write. What if you had a 10-minute little brave step, whether it's dealing with the feelings, the actions, or maybe celebrating or your story? What if you had a little 10-minute practical little something to walk you through to get you to that next step? I know that's something that I've really wanted, and that's what's gotten me through a lot of the difficult things that I've walked through, are these little golden nuggets that these ladies have for us. Sure, it's taken a lot more, but it's got to start somewhere. Start showing up for yourself. And we're going to, that publication is going to be free to all ladies. We are putting that together for you as a support piece and bring in all of our best coaches and ladies who love us so much. So just want to give you a hug as we leave. And love you all. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.